Hello, everyone. Happy Tuesday. And for those of you in the United States, I want to wish you an early happy Thanksgiving Day. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. My name is Teresa Harper, and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator located in Oregon in the United States. So let's go ahead and see who's on. See if I can get my video up here so that I can see the comments. Let's see how that goes. Okay, there we are. All right. Good deal. Now we're on, and I can see that we are transmitting out there. So tonight we're going to be using the Humble Home Stamp and Punch Bundle. These, you can buy them separately, or when you purchase them in a bundle, excuse me, together, you save 10% off of the combined price of the two items. So we're going to set this aside for just a minute. Look what have arrived. I got my first part of my pre-order, and in that came my catalogs. So this is our celebration brochure. I can't show you anything but the front and the back. And this will go live on January 7th. And what the celebration catalog is, if you don't know, is that everything in this little brochure you can earn for free. You cannot purchase it. For every $60, you can earn a free item. And then there are two items in here that with a $120 spend, you can get those items for free. And one of those is a stamp and die bundle. So that will start on January 7th. And then we have the January to April 2025 mini catalog. So take a look at that cover. And I just wanted you to know that these are going out. So you'll be looking for those in the coming weeks. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and we are going to start with a 3D project tonight. I wanted to get this one done. I don't know how long it will take to show you, so I wanted to make sure that we at least get this one in because it's pretty cute, pretty cool. Okay, so this is not my original idea. I'm sorry, I forgot to look up the demonstrator that had this idea, and so I apologize for that. I'll try to remember and put that in the comments. Okay, so we're going to be making a fairy light string, and hang on for just 1 second. I forgot to grab the completed one because we're not going to take the time to put this entirely together. But this is the project that we'll be making. So it's a fairy light string using the gingerbread houses. And when you turn this on, the lights come on. So let me turn off a few lights and hopefully you'll be able to see those glow. So this, I'm going to show you how to make this. They're fairly easy to make. They are a little time consuming, but as you can tell, they're adorable and definitely worth the effort. Okay, and they're fairly inexpensive. I think I purchased a package of fairy lights on Amazon for, I don't know, I want to say 10 or 12 bucks for 12 of them. It wasn't very expensive. So let's go ahead and get those started. Set that out of the way so that we don't have that. We're going to start with a piece of pecan pie cardstock. You will actually need 2 full sheets of pecan pie for this. And what we're going to do is we're going to take this pecan pie I'm going to cut this into 2 1/8 inch strips that are 11 inches long. Okay, and then that will give you 4 out of an 8.5 by 11 inch sheet of paper. Okay, so you cut that down to 2 1/8. You've got 4 of them, and then you'll do that with two strips. Okay, so we're really only going to do 2 strips. I'm not going to do 4. We're going to start with some pecan pie ink, and this is actually going to be the back side of our little house lights. So we're going to take this little gingerbread, and I'm going to start over here, and I'm going to put that as close to the edge without, and leave myself just a little bit of room for the punch. And then I'm going to go along here. I'm going to leave about, a 1/2 inch between them, between the roof pitches. And I should be able to get 5. Now I like to go down after I put 3 on and go to the end. And then add my last one. Okay? So you will do that with 4 strips so that you have 20 of these houses. Okay? We're going to set that aside. And then I'm going to bring in my punch. And we'll punch these out. Just line those up and give them a punch. And when you stamp them this way, you should easily be able to get those 5 without hitting any of the extra pieces that this cuts out. Okay, so we'll just do those 5. And of course, you're going to do that 4 times until you have 20 of the pecan pie on pecan pie little houses. Okay, and then you can either save these extra pieces or toss them. Okay, now we're going to bring in another strip. I'm going to clean my stamp real quick because now I don't want pumpkin pie. Okay, or pecan pie. Dry that with my hand. And then I'm going to bring in my Embossing Additions toolkit, which has my embossing buddy. I've got some opaque bright white wow embossing powder. This is part of the basics collection. This toolkit comes with the embossing buddy, the reverse tweezers. These are Teflon so that they don't heat up. And then it comes with a little brush and this powder pal that you can put your powder in and then funnel it back into your jar. Okay? All right. So we've got that. So let's set this to the side because at the moment I'm going to need some space. And we're going to take our embossing buddy and I'm just going to run that along my pecan pie. Hello, Kara. So glad you could join me. Okay, so we are going to put some embossing powder on that. And then we're going to take our gingerbread house again. And this is Versamark ink. It's a watermark ink. It's clear and sticky. And we need this to hold on to our white embossing powder. And we are going to do the same thing with this that we did with our pecan pie. And again, you're going to need 20 of these, which is why you're cutting these into 2 1/8 inch strips. And then you can stamp each strip with 5 houses. Okay, so we've got that. And when I'm doing the Versamark for this, I like to do this in sets of 5. I don't want my Versamark to dry, and I don't want to worry about setting these somewhere where they don't get messed up. So this is exactly how I do these. I've made a couple of these strings already. And then I'm just going to take that embossing powder and kind of roll it down on each of those houses to the end. Okay, and then I'm going to take a look and see that I got enough on them. And we'll do it again just for good measure. This one on the end doesn't look so great. It looks a lot better now. We'll just pour a little bit more. And then I'm just going to give that a little tap, not a hard tap. Okay, and there is my little houses. Okay, so I'm going to set that aside for a minute. Anybody who embosses knows that you should put your embossing powder away so that you don't blow it everywhere when you heat set it. So we're going to do that. Go ahead and grab our reverse tweezers here. I've got my heat tool. This is a Stampin' Up! Heat tool. It has a heat protector here so that it doesn't burn your hands when you touch it, because you're not touching the actual barrel. And then you have 2 settings. We're going to use the highest setting for the embossing. Now I'm going to turn that over here for just a minute to heat it up so you don't have to hear it so loudly. And then I like to take and start with a little bit of heat on the back because your paper will warp a bit. Hang on. These reverse tweezers are not working very well for me. I'm just going to hold this because it's so long. Okay. I've got my glass mat down here so I don't have to worry about the heat on that. And then I'm just going to heat until I see the dull powder go shiny. And then I'm going to move on, because if you keep it on there, you can overheat it and you'll go from dull to shiny to dull again. And we don't want to do that. We want these to be nice and shiny bright. Okay, come on. There we go. That one section was not wanting to heat. And my glass mat studio is resistant to the heat. It's not going to harm it. Okay, now at this point, I'm going to take and turn this around because it's a lot easier for me to get to the back of this one. And I didn't heat the back to keep it from warping so much. So I'm going to do that. Okay. So that looks pretty good. Okay, I've got a little spot right here that is not heated properly. So let's go ahead and fix that. There we go. Just takes a second once your heat tool is already heated up. Okay, I still think I've got a bit on this one. Let me There we go. Just the very peak of that house. Okay, so we want to let that cool for just a second. It doesn't take very long, but if you touch it too quickly, you can smudge and put fingerprints into your embossing. So again, we're going to punch these out. Hello, Lynette. Okay. Now, if I were you, I would do all my stamping and then all my embossing and then do all your punching. But we're going to do it this way for our purposes for tonight. Okay. And we've got that. So now we're ready to go. I'm going to set that aside. And of course, remember, you need 20 of these. Okay. And then our next step is we need to put a little, we need to cut out this door or a portion of this door. Let me retract that because we don't want the whole door. I still want the door shape. So I'm going to bring in a little self-healing cutting mat. And I'm using the Crafter's tools that you can get to add on to your take your pick tool. And this is the craft knife. Now, you could cut the door with the craft knife totally, but I am not that good. I cannot make my craft knife go in a oval form. So what I did with mine is I took and I just cut a straight line at the bottom of each door from the solid white to the solid white on these. Okay, this is stuck. Okay, so just a straight little line with the crafter's knife. Okay, and then we're going to repeat that process with our pecan pie stamped images. Now remember, these pecan pie stamped ones, which is pecan pie on pecan pie, this is actually the back of our house. And for our purposes, the part that is stamped is actually the inside and no one is going to see that stamped image. Now, could you take and do a reverse image for all of those? Yes, but I didn't want to take the time to do that because who's looking at the back of your string anyway? Okay, so you would do that with all 40 of your houses because you need a total of 40. 20 embossed and 20 just plain stamped. And then I'm going to take my paper snips, and where I have cut that little slit, I'm going to take my paper snips and I'm going to go between the dotted door line and the solid door line, and I am going to take my paper snips and I'm going to just cut that. Okay, this is something that you could do all these little doors or stamp all these, emboss them, get them cut, and then sit down and watch a television show and cut out all your little doors. Okay, so we're just going to cut those out with our paper snips. I'm a little bit more picky on my embossed white ones because I want that door to be nice and pretty. This is going to be the front side. You do not need to be quite as picky on the pecan pie stamped ones. Now I can see that I did not quite get this door area of this house quite solid. It doesn't feel like. it didn't run off, but I can take this. If you find that when you're doing it, you can take and just reheat that for another second and finish that off. As long as it was partially heated, it will go ahead and finish melting. Okay? So again, we're going to cut these. Okay. Just snipping those out. I'm still turning my paper with my left hand, my non-dominant hand, but usually we tell you to use the fulcrum of the scissors and keep it right at the section here. But in this case, I need to keep these cuts kind of on the short side, so I'm really using more of the tip of my scissors for that precision. Okay, so we've got those. Now we'll do the same thing with these. Let's see if we've got any questions. It took me about 3 hours to make my very first one. But once you get a little system going, it doesn't take quite so long. And like I say, you can stamp. I did that on the second one that I made. I did all my stamping, and then I went out to the front room and used my little craft mat and cut the doors. And then after I was done with all that, then I came in and assembled everything. Okay. So we're almost done. We've got 3 of the 5 here that we're going to do. And really, we don't have to do 5. I just thought that was because we were stamping 5 on a strip of 2 1/8 inch by 11 inch cardstock. We would just do them the 5. I actually already have 20 prepped and ready to go. We're not going to make the entire string because we're not going to be here that long. Okay, so we've got those. Now you can either keep these for something else or get rid of them. All right, so now remember I said these are the inside of the back. So what we're going to do with these is we're going to grab a piece of vellum, and I know everybody has vellum on hand. Stampin' Up! Doesn't sell it anymore, but it's real easy to get at Amazon or a craft store. I'm going to take a 1-inch circle punch, and I'm going to punch out circles. And you're going to need 40 of those. Okay. Of course, we're not doing 40 tonight. And if you don't get the entire circle, you have like this one has a little chip out of it. It's no biggie. That's not going to harm us in any way. Okay, so I've got probably enough of these. And now we're going to take these little circles, and I'm going to take some liquid glue. And hopefully this bottle, yep, it's going to cooperate. And I'm just going to run my glue around that door. I actually did these when I put my first one together in sets of 10. I would do 2 rows of 5 and then glue them all. We're not going to do that with those right now because those we got to flip over. And then we're just going to take and put these vellum circles over the doorway. Okay. Set them right down there. Okay. Now these are ready for our string lights. So we can set those aside. And we'll bring back in our embossed ones. And these ones, we're going to turn to the reverse side, just the pecan pie side. And we're going to repeat that process. Okay. A little bit of glue. All right. And then we'll grab those circles, those vellum circles, and add them on. And those are now ready to go. Okay. So while we've got these here, we're going to flip these over because these, we're not going to work with these right now. We're going to actually grab our light strings. Oh, wait a minute. Before we do that, you need to know that you need to do, well, if you wish, grab a small piece of white cardstock, not this small, because you're going to need 20, but we aren't going to do 20. I already have those done. And we're going to stamp some of these little wreaths. These are also in the Humble Home. So you just stamp 20 of those. And I'm using Memento Tuxedo black ink. I've put that into an empty craft ink pad. And then we're going to take our Stampin' Blends and we're going to color those. Okay. So I'm using the Real Red and Shaded Spruce. And I like to start with the Real Red. And the reason that I like to start with the Real Red is that if I mess up, I can push it back with the Shaded Spruce. So I'm just going to put some dark Real Red on either side of the bow there. Okay, and then a little bit down the ribbons, just to where there would be a shadow. And then we're going to go back with the light Real Red. And with this one, I like to go from the bottom of the ribbons up. I find I am a little bit more accurate and can stay in the lines a little bit better if I do it that way. Because these are pretty tiny little ribbons. Okay, and that's how I color my ribbons. Or yeah. And then we're going to use the dark shaded spruce. And I'm going to hit the dot up here at the top. Go down here at the edge of the bow. And hit these areas where there would be some shadow. And then right at the end of the ribbons. These really color quite quickly, as you can see. Again, you can do this in front of the television. Okay, so we've got that. Then we'll go back with our light shaded spruce and fill this in. And this is where if you had any run over on your red ribbon here at the bottom, the shaded spruce will push that back up into the red where you want it, up into the ribbon where you want it. Okay, so we've got those. And of course, you would need to do this 20 times. Okay, and then because the Humble Home Builder, or the Humble Home stamp set, I'm adding Wink of Stella now onto my ribbons here. Because it's a builder punch, there is nothing to cut these out. So you have to fussy cut these. Now, I'm not going to lie to you. I have a brother scan and cut, and I cheated for all of mine. I just stamped and colored all mine, and then I ran them through the scan and cut. So that's an option if you have one. Of course, if you don't, then you can sit and fussy cut these in front of the television or at a volleyball tournament or whatever you have going where you need to keep yourself busy. Probably not at your granddaughter's volleyball tournament though, because it's a little stressful sometimes. Okay, so then you would cut all these out. And then what I do is I put them all on a glue dot strand. And that's all I'm going to cut for now so that they don't get lost. All right, so we are ready to start putting this together now. Let's bring in our glue dots. We need glue dots and we need Stampin' Dimensionals. So here's our little fairy string. And I'll make sure those are off. And then I'm going to just unroll this. Okay, and hope this cooperates. And then I'm going to take my first light right here, and I'm going to pull in one of my pecan pie, and I'm going to put my light just above the door. Okay, now this first one's a little tricky because the light's right on the end. So I'm going to fold this in half, my glue dot, kind of like a little log. And I'm going to put this down here just above the door. And then I'm going to put my little glue dot over that. Okay. And then I'm going to put a second one over here. I would put a second one over here, but because this is the first one, I need to anchor that on the same side. So I'm going to take my glue dot and I'm going to get that rolled in so it stays a little bit better. Okay, now I've got that. And then I'm going to do a second one. And with this one, because I have wire on either side, I'm still going to roll that glue dot. I'm going to put that light right above the door and stick that glue dot over the wire on the right side. Okay, and then I'm going to grab myself a second glue dot, roll it up, and put it on the left side. That way I'm sandwiching my wire on either side. Okay, so we've got two done. And now I'm going to take my embossed pecan pie. I'm going to take my Stampin' Dimensionals. I'm going to put one at the roof line and one at each bottom corner, making sure that I don't go outside of the house line. And then I'm going to bring in my embossed house. See my glue dots, got my dimensionals, there's my light, and now I'm going to line this up. And before I give it a good press, I'm going to make sure that everything lines up. Okay, now I've got the light through the back, light through the front. Okay, so let's do the second one. And we'll add some more dimensionals. And we need to tame this wire just a bit Put more dimensionals. Remove those backings. And we'll add our embossed house on top. Line that all up. Make sure those chimneys and the bottoms meet. And then we'll give that a press on those dimensionals. And then we've got this. Okay, so how do we finish these houses off? I would go through and do this whole string just like I did this. And then when I had all 20 of them done, I would come back and take my wreaths, which I have on glue dots. Here's mine all ready to go. Okay. And then I would take my little wreath, pop it up here at the top of the house, like so. And then, if you have them, I know these are out of stock again, and they've been extremely difficult to keep in stock. Take a real red and white peppermint, and I'm out of the large ones, so I'm going to add medium ones, and I'm just going to add that right in at the top 1/3 of the front door here on all of those. Okay, so there are my completed little gingerbread houses, and I would keep going until I had all 20. And my string is complete. Now, so you know, I have all of mine ready to go. So I am ready to finish this off. But we're not going to do that and take up all your time tonight. Let me get the finished one again, so you can see what that looks like. And then we'll turn those off and turn these on. And then that's what you'll have. So let's get to the end of the light. And then you can see how those will glow, and you can hang them on your wall. Okay? So I hope you like this. This Humble Home Bundle has been on back order, but it should be back in next week. All right. So let's go ahead, turn this off, and we'll get ready for project number 2. All right, I hope everyone will make those because they really are quite fun to make. And I know I gave my mom one. She was very pleased to get it. And I've got requests from my daughter and granddaughters for theirs. Okay, so I hope you like that. I'm going to go ahead and do a little bit of cleanup because we're going to need some of these things again. Get those out of the way. And we'll put all of my excess pieces over here to the right so I can finish those up this week. See, yeah, all kinds of these little wreaths just waiting to be added. All right. Okay, so for our second project tonight, we have a card. Got those out of the way. This up. All right, here we go. Let's go ahead and grab our supplies. Do a little bit of ink blending. Tiny bit of coloring. And our colors, we're using Pretty Peacock, Smoky Slate, Lost Lagoon, and Cherry Cobbler. And in addition to the Humble Home Bundle, I'm taking my sentiments for this card from Peaceful Seasons, and I'm also using the coordinating Peaceful Season die. We're going to be using these two and this one. Okay. And we're using the Sentimental Christmas Designer Series paper. This is Give Back Tuesday, and this pack of paper just happens to be Stampin' Up's Give Back. So for every pack of this paper that is purchased, Stampin' Up will donate $3 for children's literacy programs here in the United States. Okay? There are literacy programs across the world that in other countries that we're in, but they have one specific one for here in the States or for here in North America. And then we're also going to be finishing our card off with the Petal Pink and Pretty Peacock foil gems. So let's get started. All right, so our card base for this one is a basic white thick card base, and this is a standard A2 5.5 by 8.5 inch piece of paper. I've scored it in the middle at 4 1/4, and I'm going to bring in my Simply Scored tool for a minute. It's because I've been having quite a bit of trouble getting these folded correctly. So if I put all the ends in the corner here, then I get a much nicer fold. And my paper folds more evenly. Okay, so we've got that. Then we're going to bring in another piece of basic white. And this piece of basic white is 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. And I have run this through the Timber 3D embossing folder in this direction because I wanted my wood to go up and down. And I'm going to go ahead and add this to my card front using some liquid glue. So let's just put some Tombow liquid glue on here. I like to use Tombow liquid glue when I'm using a 3D embossed folder piece, just because I find I get better adhesion from all those bumpy crooks and crannies. Okay, so let's go ahead and fold that out. This is a very narrow border, so we're just going to set this down, and with that liquid glue then I can move it. And then I'll press it, and I'll turn that over and grab my bone folder that I don't know where I set down. And we'll just give that a little bit of a press, not too hard, but enough to move that glue and put pressure so that it adheres. Okay, so now our card front is ready. And I'll go ahead and re-burnish that fold. All right. So next I have a piece of the Sentimental Christmas Designer Series paper that I just showed you. And we're going to add this to our card front. Again, I'm going to use a little bit of liquid glue because I'm adhering this to a 3D embossed piece. And I'm just going to center this up. Now this piece is 3 1/4 by 4 1/2. Okay, so we're just going to put that down. And now let's move on to some stamping. Okay. So this is my inside piece. It too is 3 1/4 by 4 1/2. And then I've got a scrap piece of white here for my stamping. And in addition to that, I've cut 2 of those Peaceful Season labels. We're going to stamp on one, and we're going to ink blend one, okay? Or both, actually. So let's go ahead. We're going to take from the Peaceful Seasons, and we're going to take the word Merry and some cherry cobbler ink. And I'm going to stamp that down. I'm going to bring that down here so I can see it a little better. Hopefully I'm still in the frame. Okay, so we've got that. And then on this scrap piece of paper, we are going to stamp the brick house, the 2-piece house. Okay, so we're going to start with the roof light and some pretty peacock ink. We set those aside for the moment. Set that aside. And we're going to take this roof line and we're going to put this over here. And I think that'll be tall enough. Okay. Let that ink adhere. Okay. Then I'm going to leave that open for just a second. We're going to take our smoky slate ink and the brick portion of that house. And actually, I'm going to bring in my silicone mat here. Okay. I'm going to ink that up. Actually, hang on. I need to, my smoky slate ink is a little bit too juicy. So I'm going to press that ink into the pad with the back of a spoon. This is a spoon I have in my craft room just for this purpose. Walmart has these in packs of 3 for like $3. So now I'm going to go ahead and re-ink that. I'll get a better inking that way. And then I'm going to place this to the pitch of that roof and hope I get it just right. And there we go. Okay, so now here's our house. Now it's going to need some doors and a door and some windows. And this stamp set has this stamp here that you can stamp doors and windows with. I wanted my door and window to be just a little bit different. I could have done it this way, but I'm going to actually use the doors and windows from the gingerbread house. So we're going to take the little gingerbread house, and I am going to close up the smoky slate before I put my fingers in it. And then I'm going to ink half of my house because that's all I need. Just need to make sure I get the doors and the windows inked. I'm going to turn this piece of paper and I'm going to stamp that down. And now I've got my 2 windows and my door. And the last piece I need for this is another wreath. Okay. I'm going to take my little wreath and memento and I'm going to stamp that down. All right. So now we're going to color our doors and windows. So we're going to take a little bit of light lemon lolly. And I'm just going to throw in a little bit. I'm not trying to be perfect because the light coming through the window wouldn't necessarily be perfect. And then I'm going to take the dark Lost Lagoon Stampin' Blend. And I am going to color in this door. I'm just using the brush end, and we'll just give that a quick little color. Okay. And then we also need to very carefully color the top and bottom of those windows. And I'm barely touching, so that's a very thin area. Okay, so those are now done. Moving on to our wreath, we are going to take the light and dark cherry cobbler, and I'm going to color this wreath with the dark and light cherry cobbler just like I did on the previous, using real red, but we switched this up to cherry cobbler this time. And then I'm going to turn, actually, let me get this off here so it'll turn easier. And then we'll just take a little bit, brush that there and there. And then we're going to finish this up with the dark and light Pretty Peacock. So again, we're going to start with our dark. And I'm going to just take those on the tip, a little bit here, here, and then at the tips of those ribbons. And then we'll finish filling that in and blend those colors together. Okay. Now, we have to fussy cut our bow here, which maybe I should have done ahead of time for you, but I didn't. So we're just going to give this a real quick little fussy cut. Doesn't have to be perfect. I'm just barely leaving a white border. I want just the tiniest little bit here. Because I want this to look like it's a piece of our house rather than have a big white border. So there's that. And of course, we're going to add some, because Stella, if I can see where I put it down at, which I don't. Okay, I've got too many tools out, and my wink of Stella is hiding. Okay. So again, I'm just going to put a little bit here on the bow, and I want to make sure that's not going to overflow on me because it looked like it was going to. Okay, there we go. Lots of shine on that. We'll set it aside to dry. I'm going to go ahead and cut out my windows and doors. This is easier if you cut the windows while they're still attached to the door piece because they're so tiny. So my recommendation is cut your windows first so you have more paper to turn. Okay. And then we're going to come over here. And actually at this point, I'm going to go ahead and cut my door because I'm going to cut that window off anyway. Hopefully, I'll still have plenty of paper left. Okay, now on this door, I colored clear down to the bottom line here. And then I'm going to cut off those scallops right at the stamp line. Okay, and then I think I left too wide of a border here, so I'm going to go back in and trim that a bit. And then we'll go ahead and cut this window. when you're fussy cutting like this, think about where you want to end so that you'll know where to start. Because you never want to end on a difficult cut. Okay, so there we go. We have our doors, our windows. We're going to grab our punch. And now we can punch this out. And I have just a big enough handle left over here that I can easily punch this. If you don't, you can always add a post-it note. I'm gonna, let's see, let's get that down just a little bit more. Center that up, and there is our house. Okay, so now we can go ahead and add our door to our house. So we're going to do that with just a little bit of liquid glue. And I need my tweezers because that's about the only way I can function. These little things, and of course now I can't see where I set them down at. Oh my goodness. Too many things, and I didn't put them back where I should have. Okay, well, because I set them back in the embossing tray when I put it away. Okay, so here's my tweezers. And then we'll grab our window. Okay, liquid glue, come on. There we go. Maybe a little much, so I'm going to share my liquid glue with my other window. And we'll just put this one down here. And then this one down here. Okay. So now our house looks just a little bit different than it would if we used those straight doors. Again, we're going to use a glue dot, and I'm going to stack my glue dots. So I'm going to put one down, and then I'm going to attempt to put another one down right on top of that first one, because that's going to add just a little bit more dimension and have my wreath stand out just a little bit higher from the house. It looks a little more realistic to me. And now our house is ready to be put on our card. So we're going to take some Stampin' Dimensionals here. We're going to add our house to our card. And I'm going to pay attention to where my trees are here. So I'm going to come down here. And because I have a bottom of a tree here, I'm going to set this so that you really don't see the bottom of that tree and center it left to right. Now, I'm not going to be happy with this. I didn't punch it quite right. So before I get that set down, I'm going to go ahead and trim that up a bit. Because I didn't do a great job punching it. So I'm going to fix that so I don't have an excess amount of white. You don't have to, but that's me. And I don't like it when it's got a big white border on one side and not so much on the other. So we're just going to fix that. Okay. So we'll just put that down there. We're almost done with this card. So I have taken ahead of time. Oh, and actually I did do that wreath ahead of time. I have pre-cut out of regular basic white the word Christmas using those dies from the Peaceful Seasons. So this is the background. And then I've used the festive, oh, I just lost that wreath. Good thing I didn't need it. Or no, oh, it's a window. I already had those cut, so you didn't have to watch me. Okay, so now I've got the Christmas here. I'm going to add this Christmas. This festive paper is in the mini catalog. You get Granny Apple Green, Garden Green, and Cherry Cobbler. And you get 2 sheets of each. And I've pre-cut this out of the Cherry Cobbler. I'm going to put just a little bit of liquid glue here. You could use the adhesive sheets for this, but I kind of like the liquid glue so I can slide it into place. Okay, so I'm just going to take and hold this at the T, and then I'll kind of set it down and move my letters into place one by one. My S is not cooperating quite so good here. There we go, right like that. And when I'm happy with it, I'll give that a press. With the liquid glue, I can move it a little bit easier and get those letters where I want them before I press them down and make them solid. Now, my little tittle I put over here so it wouldn't get lost. I'm just going to put just a dab of glue on there, and then we'll add that right there and slide that into place. Okay, so now we have our Christmas. Now we need Mary. And so with this, what we're going to do is I wanted this to stand out a little bit more from here, but not quite so white. So I'm going to take a little bit of Pretty Peacock ink on a blending brush. Okay, so I'm just going to take a little bit of that. And I'll just set that right on my glass mat. And this is going to be my shadow piece. So I want this to be a little bit darker here. And I want a little bit more darkness on the bottom on this end, and a little more darkness on the top on this end. And I didn't give myself enough ink. Now I have way too much. It's okay. So I'm going to start at the top and then I'll work my way down just so that I get kind of an ombre from the top to the bottom on this side. And there is my background piece. Now I want to take the word Mary and I'm going to end up cutting these off. So where I really want to concentrate my ink on this is really just at the edges of the rectangle. And I want it to be fairly light because I don't want it to overtake my Mary. And then we're just going to do that. And that looks good. Let's go ahead and wipe that up with the chamois that comes with the Glass Mat Studio. Take that ink right off of there. And then we'll take our paper snips. And we're just going to snip one snip there. And one snip here. And that will liberate that rectangle from the tails. Okay. And then I'm going to go ahead on these and I'm just going to take my fingernail and curl those up a bit. Okay. And then we're going to put a couple of mini dimensionals on the back of here. 1, 2, 3. Remove the wax paper backings. And we're going to add this to that piece just to give it a little of dimension. Make it look like it's popping from the back of those ribbon pieces. And then we're going to take this, I'm going to put that at just a slight angle, and this at a slight angle. And you know what? I was supposed to ink blend that. And I didn't. Well, poo. Too late now. Okay. So we're going to go ahead. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and pop this off. That's what I'm going to do. I want these to look alike. So we'll pop this off. I'm going to get rid of that. And I'm going to grab a piece of white and we'll cut one of those really quickly. Stamp it and put it on, and then everything will be white. It'll be okay. Okay, so let's go ahead and grab our die cut here. And I don't care if I get the whole thing. I just want that rectangle section. We'll bring in our mini. I might as well make these match so it looks nice. Because one ink blended and one not is not going to look right. So I should have ink blended the background of the Christmas before I put it together, and I did not. So this is how you fix that. We'll just recut one of these. Get on there the way I want you. Come on. No, it's just going to be stubborn. Okay, we're going to tape it and force it to do what we want it to do. And it'll stay where I want it. And there we go. Okay. So now we've got that. And again, we don't need the whole thing. We just need the rectangular section. So we'll put this down, grab our Mary again, cherry cobbler ink, and stamp that just like so. And then we'll be careful. Cherry cobbler does, the darker reds do take a minute to dry, so we're going to snip and snip. Snip and snip. Okay, now we're back in business. Okay. Sorry about that. I looked up at my sample and went, wait a minute, I forgot to ink blend. You can't have one white and one not. All right. Well, this is real crafting, folks. This is just how things work, and this is how you fix it. Okay, so now we're going to take this. I'm going to put this here like this. And then we'll put this like this, and there we go. I like that much better. Okay, so with this, we're just going to put this on with some liquid glue. And again, I'm putting it at a little bit of an angle, just for some interest. Again, do this, liquid glue, and a little bit of an angle. All right, and the final touch for the front of this is the Pretty Peacock Foil Gems. So we'll take a large one, put it down there. I'm going to take a small one if I can get it to come up. Okay, be silly there, mister. There we go. Come on. There we go. Put one up here, and I'm going to use another large one. And right there. And there is the front of our card. Okay. Now for the inside of our card, what did I do with that piece? We've got this 3 1/4 by 4 1/2 inch piece. I have the piece of designer series paper that I cut off the bottom of the front panel, and I'm just going to set that right here. My intention is to do this, but I want it to say love from our home to yours, and this is too long when I have this piece on here. So I'm going to take my cherry cobbler ink. I'm going to ink up love from our, just using the side of my pad. I'm going to center that up and press that down gently because this is a very delicate piece and I don't like the way that are inked. So we're going to turn that over, and that's exactly why you don't put your designer series paper down first. So let's go ahead and clean that off. For some reason I got a little bit of a blotch on the R. So we're going to try that again. Hopefully it works this time. I don't want to have to cut another piece. Okay. So there we go. That looks better. Make sure we got the love. Didn't look like it was inked. We'll put this down. Okay, now I'm going to clean this with my chamois. I'm going to dry it really well with my hand. And then I'm going to ink the other half that says home to yours. And you could mask that off with a piece of Scotch tape, washi tape, whatever. And then I'm going to center this up here right under the love from our. Okay. And now we've got that. And finally, I'm going to add also from the Peaceful Seasons, hoping this season is bright and beautiful. But this time we're moving to Pretty Peacock. And I'm going to center that right under here. Okay. And then I'm going to take my Lost Lagoon ink and the heart, also from Humble Home. And take some Lost Lagoon ink. I'm going to get a scrap piece of paper. I'm going to ink up that heart. I'm going to stamp it down. And then I'm going to stamp this right over the top of hoping this season is bright and beautiful. And then we'll add our designer series paper to the side of our card here. We'll line that up so that there's no white showing. And then we'll add this to our card, which nobody will ever know that we did that. And this card is now complete. All right, everybody. So there's what we have for tonight. Let me bring back in. I'll bring. I don't have the other parts, but we'll bring this in, and this is our projects for tonight. I hope you like those. And I will not be live on Thursday, Thanksgiving. So I hope you like this project. I sure hope that you'll make some. If so, please share on our Facebook social group page that's associated with K&T Designs by Teresa. And until next time, have a happy Thanksgiving and happy stamping. Thank you. Good night.